Hey y'all, Ibrix guy here, and a lot of people say, oh man, there's another drone coming out. It's from Parrot. Do you remember Parrot's drones? Do you remember the Bebop and the Bebop 2? You know, it wasn't anything to write home about. But a lot of people fail to recognize why Parrot's ANAFI is so important. Parrot originally had a drone way back when, back before DJI to my knowledge. And that was before DJI evolved rapidly with the gimbals and the gimbal stabilized video, their own cameras. DJI really took a concept and turned it into something really cool, a really cool tool rather. Whereas Parrot, they kind of floundered around and they had these glorified toys. Obviously they weren't toys, they were drones. You got to fly safely and responsibly. But they never really could seem, Parrot never really could seem to figure it out. And they never could seem to to figure out how to create something that would compete with DJI. And they released the Parrot Bebop, and when the Parrot Bebop came out, it was neat. It looked really cool. It was a small drone. It was lightweight. To look at it was impressive. It was something that was smaller, it was lighter, it was more portable. But then when you took the Parrot Bebop and you paired it with the Sky controller, excuse me, Sean Coonery, excuse me, sir. He's on a down coat. Can't be on that. Yeah, I don't want you to scratch that up. But then when you looked at the Sky controller, the size and the weight of the Sky controller completely negated the positive aspects that the Bebop brought to the table, the small size, the ultra portable weight. But even if the Sky controller had been smaller, the Parrot Bebop, it used software stabilized video, which we know, all you gotta do is look at the video from it. It was nowhere near as good as gimbal stabilized video like you got from the DJI. But now what we've got, and this is why it's so significant, we've got a drone coming from Parrot that has gimbal stabilized video. It's got a 4K Sony-based camera, Sony-based. That's super important. If you know cameras, you know that Sony's among the, and there's opinions, people share their own opinions, but there'll be few people that'll be able to tell you that Sony's not among the best cameras out there. So the fact that this has a Sony-based camera is super cool. And the fact that it can be recharged with USB-C. Maybe I don't have to buy as many extra batteries as I would with the Mavic Air. Because with the USB-C, charge it in the field with a USB battery bank, or trickle charge that USB battery bank with a solar panel. Keep it going with a minimal amount of batteries. So that that further enhances the portability of the Bebop, not the Bebop, but I'm sorry, the Bebop. That's ingrained in my mind when I think of Parrot. The ANAFI, the new and cool drone from Parrot. When you factor in, you may not have to carry as many batteries with you. That's another positive. So it's got me genuinely excited. And I mean, these are just, I like to give companies benefit of the doubt. And it was always clear in the past that Parrot was an innovator. They had good design, a good design team, but they just couldn't really connect the dots. Because when you looked at the Bebop, again, this is looking way back to the Bebop days, but it was small, it was lightweight, yet there were, in my opinion, gross oversights, like the way the battery attached. I mean, it was on the top, and it had like a little Velcro piece that you had to tighten and loosen to take the battery off and put it on. I mean, that seems, my perception of that, and I'm not a designer by any means, but my perception of that as a customer is that was just horrible design. Look at a company like Apple, or look at a company like GoPro. They never would have allowed something like that to be present on their products. I mean, it just looks cheap and unfinished. But step forward to Parrot ANAFI, and what you're looking at, and again, I've got mine ordered, and I can't wait to unbox it and review it here so we can see in the real world how well it performs or how poorly it performs. Not going into this with any form of bias. I mean, in my mind, I do know that Parrot in the past, they were innovators. Parrot in the past released Bebop, which in my opinion, was not a great product. But it signaled what was coming next. And it looks like they may have finally taken that next step. So this Parrot ANAFI, if it performs well from a video quality and stability perspective, if the battery life is decent, when I say decent, I want at least a solid 15 minutes of flight time out of a battery. If I can get a solid 15 minutes, that's one YouTube video up to 5 minutes in duration, 2 YouTube videos up to 5 minutes in duration, 3 YouTube videos up to 5 minutes in duration. That puts me to 15-minute mark. So, you know, and in theory, if what Parrot ANAFI claims, I think they claim 25 minutes, check the link within this video's description. You can find a link to order the Parrot ANAFI there. But I think they claim up to 25 minutes on paper. So, you know, real world, you've always, well, you don't always have to, but out of best practice, in my opinion, one should bump that down. So realistically, if I see 25 minutes battery life on paper before I take this Parrot ANAFI out in the field, my assumption is going to be that maybe in real world flying conditions I could get between 18 and 22 minutes. I think that's a conservative speculative estimate. So we'll see how it performs. You know, stay tuned for my first flight with the Parrot ANAFI. But yeah, that's huge. Being able to get in, if I can get 3 solid flights for my YouTube videos, that's great. And if I mess one up, that gives me the ability with one battery to comfortably film up to 3 flights. So that could be the same flight or 2 do-overs of the flight, 2 flights and then 1 flight and then 2 do-overs. I mean, however you mesh it in there if you're talking about 5-minute videos. So that's super cool. And I really like, and again, without having the Parrot ANAFI in my hands yet, I can look at the specs and really start to feel excited about it, but I can't really confirm my excitement until it's in my hands and I know that it's the real deal. And I know that, you know, that it meets or exceeds what I'm reading on paper. And it's going to be, I'm usually a pretty good judge of what to expect. And you may have seen some of my other drone videos in the past where I stepped outside of the DJI drone for a while. And my experiences with those drones were, from my experience, they were less than acceptable. But going into this, and again, without having any sort of bias going into it, other than what I can eliminate, and that's the fact that I did fly the Bebop. So that's going to kind of put a sour taste in my mouth when it comes to Parrot, but also a positive taste because, you know, that was innovative for its time. Even though it lacked a gimbal, even though it lacked refinement, you know, you've got a piece of Velcro holding the battery on, which was kind of goofy. It still signaled their Parrot's desire to want more. You know, they wanted to create something that the consumers would clamor to get, and I'm hoping that's the ANAFI, because if it is, you know, this is something that if it performs as well or better than the DJI drones, this is something that could really spark rapid innovation among drone manufacturers. So if Parrot does well, there will essentially be 2 drone manufacturers in the world that people care about, and that'll be Parrot and DJI. And of course, DJI is number 1 by a long shot, but that doesn't say that a competitor like Parrot couldn't gain some traction. And you know, by no means am I anti-DJI. I love DJI. They've got great products. They're very well made. They're fun. But with that said, they're the only one right now. And when you're the only one within any sort of industry, you can pretty much dictate how quickly you release new features. You can dictate the pricing. You can do whatever you want to. Because when consumers don't have choice, the one company that manufactures that product, they're in ultimate control. They're in complete control. So I think that, and again, I'm cautiously optimistic that Parrot ANAFI will become this drone, but I think Parrot ANAFI will become the drone that may potentially dethrone DJI. And just, you know, step forward, let's say step forward a year. Okay, so it's, what is it now? It's June of 2018. Step forward in your mind to June of 2019 and look back and be like, wow, that was Parrot's first true drone that performed well. And then look at how that's going to impact the drone industry as a whole. You're probably going to see price wars. You know, DJI is probably going to have to price more aggressively to continue to maintain grip of that market share. You're probably going to see more rapid innovation. Whereas now, you know, Mavic Air has been out for a while. Mavic Air is awesome. Mavic Air is my favorite drone on the market today. But with that said, DJI realizes that too, and they have nothing nudging them and saying, hey man, release the new drone, release the Phantom 5, or release the Mavic Pro 2. Hey, what are you doing? They're just standing in a corner and laughing their way to the bank. And that's the thing. When you're the only true, you're the only company that produces a real product, you know, again, you're in control. But I think, and I feel fairly confident, even if it's not Parrot, because as we know, GoPro unfortunately failed. GoPro's Karma was a complete flop. And my assumption is that GoPro may never re-enter the drone arena. You know, they've probably got such a sour taste in their mouth now from that and going public on Wall Street that they probably have no desire to ever want to mess with drones again. But a company like Parrot, that's always been fun and innovative, but more toy-centric, a company like Parrot could evolve into something great. You know, again, something great that could really put that pressure upon DJI. And I think that's where this is heading. And to look at it just at, oh, there's a new drone coming out from Parrot. It's called the what? What? Oh, it's that island over there, ANAFI. And, you know, that's the perception a lot of people have. People have negative perception about the Parrot ANAFI. They're like, man, that's that company that makes those toy drones, you know. And I'll share that opinion. You know, again, I've already bashed the Bebop in a constructive way. I've said it was a, you know, it signaled where they wanted to be, but they just didn't execute. And it was a poorly refined product. I mean, that's kind of like getting a, you know, let's say you go out and you buy a luxury vehicle and you sit down in it and everything's nice, but instead of the center console being there with nice leather or whatever, you've just got an unfinished 2x4. I mean, that's kind of what they did with Bebop. I mean, it was, you could see they had the quality design in mind. They wanted to make it look refined, but they had that piece of Velcro holding the battery in, and they didn't have a gimbal. You know, they had the software stabilized video, which was nowhere close to the quality of gimbal stabilized video. So again, I feel that you know, that Parrot, and to be determined after I unbox the drone and get the ANAFI in the air and tell you what I think, and not tell you what I think, but show you what it does. At least what it does for me. I think any assumptions at this point in time, as far as performance of the ANAFI is concerned, would be unfair, because anybody that would be sharing that information would more than likely not have a production version of the Parrot ANAFI. So it's never, in my opinion, fair to gauge the performance of a product until it's been released to the general public. So, you know, when I get mine, the production version that I ordered, it'll be, you know, the real deal. It's not going to be some pre-release, maybe it's the same, maybe it's not kind of thing. So, but this is going to be a huge turning point for the drone industry. So when you look back, again, right now it's June of 2018. When you're watching this video further down the road and you're like, man, that guy knew what was up. You know, that's great. If it does materialize like I think it's going to, you know, like my video, share my video, support my channel if you want to. Check the link within this video's description. You can choose to support my channel. It's not required, but if you want to, hey, it helps out a lot. And then also, if you're looking for the Parrot ANAFI, expand this video's description. You can find a link to the Parrot ANAFI there. But it's just interesting, and it's, you know, this industry it was evolving rapidly, and then it kind of became stagnant briefly, and it's for that reason too that I'm excited to see someone like Parrot. The perception is that they're stepping up to the plate because they want to compete, and I mean this is huge, and a lot of people were probably downplaying this development. They're like, man, I saw the Parrot ANAFI drone, man, that thing looks cheap compared to the Mavic Air. And you know what? I will tell you, looking at photos, and again, I have not had the Parrot ANAFI in my hands yet, have not held the Parrot ANAFI in my hands yet, rather, so I can't make valid assumptions until I've done that. I mean, I can make educated guesses based upon what I've seen within photos, and you know, if you really scrutinize the photos of the ANAFI, it kind of looks, it's a different design. You know, it's more long and narrow versus the Mavic Air, which is kind of wider and shorter. I mean, again, both ultra lightweight and ultra portable drones, but it's unfair. I feel that it's unfair for people to bash the Parrot ANAFI this early on just by looking at photos. You know, saying that the build quality looks cheap, this, that, and the other. Again, it's that tactile feel that one gets when they hold it in their hands and when they unfold the Parrot ANAFI. You know, how does that feel in comparison to a Mavic Air? I mean, the Mavic Air is exceptionally well made. It's heavy from a tactile feel perspective, yet it's lightweight from a portability perspective. When I unfold and refold the Mavic Air, I'm not guessing in my mind, well, gee, I wonder how many more times I can do this before it finally breaks from unfolding and folding back up. And, you know, I don't have that problem with the Mavic Air. The Mavic Air is exceptionally well designed, and that's going to be, again, something tough if Parrot keeps, even though they've got a new design for a drone, if Parrot has not upped the quality of their components, it's going to be tough for them to compete with DJI from a build quality perspective. So, you know, that's one of those things, until I've got the Parrot ANAFI in my hands, I can't really comment about that. But I can comment this early on and say, you know, it's unfair, in my opinion, to bash a product that you haven't held in your hands yet, and to bash a product based upon what that company has released in the past. Because, you know, I want to feel confident that Parrot has started to learn how they were going wrong, and hopefully this is their, you know, this is their fast leap out of the gutter. You know, and you know, and I'm all for that. I'm not trying to sound anti-Parrot, because, you know, I may be coming across that way, and I'm just being realistic, because, again, with the Parrot Bebop and with the and I never touched the Parrot Bebop 2 because it's basically just an overhauled Parrot Bebop 1. But, you know, given their track record, I'm in the school of thought that I'm probably going to get a more toy grade experience than a prosumer experience like I've grown to expect from DJI. But I could be grossly inaccurate with that assumption. So, you know, like y'all, you know, I'm going to stay all over this, and obviously as soon as my Parrot ANAFI arrives, unbox it, take it out in the field, and we're going to put it through its paces, and it's not going to be any sort of sugar-coated experience. You know, I'll tell you what it is, just like I've done with all my drones, Phantom 1 through present. So I'm excited, but I don't want to let that excitement dilute my honest feelings about this, and that's why I wanted to post this video, because all you got to do is read the comments about Parrot ANAFI, and you'll probably run into what, you know, some of the things I've just mentioned. But it's going to be a fun ride, and it's going to be a huge step forward for the drone industry if Parrot executes well. Because I'm afraid to say it, but I don't think there's anybody else trying to enter this space. I mean, you haven't seen perceived interest from companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft. You did with GoPro, but GoPro failed. And, you know, GoPro failing, that could have really gotten a lot of would-be established companies that may have entered the drone game to stay out. They're like, well, man, if GoPro, you know, the leading action camera company, if they failed with drones, we don't want to touch that. You know, and that's probably it's probably been some of the aftershocks that GoPro's failure with the Karma has created for the industry. But Parrot's always been a toy company and a drone company, early on in the drone game too. So, you know, they've been there for a while, so they should know at least enough to now know how they went wrong, how they can fix their mistakes, and how they can position themselves to become an industry leader within the drone space going forward. So thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe, youtube.com/IRIXGuy. And again, check the link within this video's description, expand this video's description, and you can find where to order the Parrot ANAFI online. Y'all have a good day. Hey y'all, IRIXGuy here. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe, like, and share. It's viewers like you that enable my channel to continue to grow. Thank you.